So I was in town today and was in the Mayfair area and started sort of having my fun and sort of laughing at all these people going into these shops and flash cars and things. And it was great. Everyone seemed to be enjoying it. A couple of policemen came round on horseback, and I managed to sort of get them on my side. By the time they finished, they were sort of saying, just make sure you don't stand outside one store for too long because they might, think that it can affect your business. So that was great advice, and we sort of parted with jokes, and it was all very nice. And basically, I then moved up the road, and I stayed outside one particular store probably for too long. I admit, and they called the police, and this sort of police officer, I only remember him as Peter. I thought I recorded it, but I didn't, so I can only share with you my experience of what happened. So this police officer sort of came up to me and he says, asked what you're doing, and I sort of tried in my usual way to explain. I told him I was recording it, and then he sort of went to this other guy who, who's basically the security guy. The person who was involved, who was accusing me, was a security guy at this store, and he'd said that the only sort of evidence against me was that I would sort of suggested that people were robots. There were robots in the area, and that IBM and that Apple and Microsoft had created these robots, and be careful of robots. It was all in this kind of my usual jokey manner. And he'd said to me something like, "Well, I've got enough evidence to take you down the police station." And I started asking him my details, and I kept asking him, "Are you demanding my details or are you requesting my details?" And he just wouldn't answer the question, and I could feel it going towards him, sort of arresting me, and it wasn't convenient for me to be arrested. So by the end of it, he he basically got my details because I didn't want to be arrested, and then he said to me something like, "You're entertaining here, and you don't have a license." I said, "Yeah, but I'm not collecting any money for it." He says, "It doesn't matter. You're still entertaining, and you're not allowed to. And if I catch you doing this, again, I'm going to arrest you for for entertaining in Westminster without a license." Which basically means, well, you'll hear my objection to it on the following phone call. So anyway, I'm going to have to chop this phone call up a little bit into different parts because of YouTube. But anyway, I'd like to hear what you think about this. I basically spoke to the non-emergency police line afterwards, and here's what happened.
Hello, Danny.
Oh, hi.
Sergeant Lloyd here. What can we do for you?
Oh, great. Thank you so much for your time. It's a bit of an unusual situation, which I get myself into quite a lot. I am. I don't like to really call myself any specific thing because then I get accused of what I got accused of today. But I engage in a form of self-expression on the streets of London using a megaphone, and it's, for many people, it's very, very entertaining. I've got films on YouTube which I'm happy to sort of point you towards. And my purpose of doing it is to kind of sort of gently sort of poke fun a little bit at the way we are in society, but do it in a nice, loving, gentle way. Okay? It's a bit like lots of art. It's a form of art, I guess. So that's what I do, and I've been doing it for about 3 years. And today, something that's never happened to me happened, and it was quite disturbing. And I only got a little bit of it on tape. But the officer who involved, and I only remember his first name for the moment, and maybe there's something on my record or something. I don't know how it works. But the officer involved his name is Peter. Basically, what happened is I've been in the Mayfair area, and I was on my megaphone, and there were like 20 people listening, and I was outside Louis Vuitton. And because the people in Louis Vuitton, I stayed there probably a bit too long for my own good. And the people in Louis Vuitton obviously called the police. They came screaming down the place with their lights on, right? And literally, I was kind of just speaking sort of comedic stuff as people went past, yeah. And this particular police officer, to cut a long story short, he forced me to give him my details, right, based on the idea that he had good evidence that I had breached the Public Order Act. Yeah, which I at the time I said to him, hold on a second, the Public Order Act is, in my understanding, the Public Order Act is there to stop people, going into the middle of Brixton and saying some nasty racist comment or, I don't know, insulting a whole group of people, right?
Well, it's anything that someone can find threatening, abusive, or insulting.
Well, Sergeant, the wording is very, very important. It's not anything. It's anything that is likely to lead to alarm, harassment, and distress. That's not anything at all. It's not an offence to say something that might lead to alarm, harassment, and distress, because if that's the case, it's an offence to say anything, because somebody can get offended from you saying hello to them if you say it in the wrong way. They can be alarmed by you saying hello. So, it's not, it's the wording, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm mistaken, the wording is doing something or displaying a sign that is likely to cause alarm, harassment and distress. Is that not correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So,
writing, sign or visible representation of something like that.
Yes.
Morally.
Yes, that's right. But it has to be something that's likely to cause alarm, harassment and distress. Otherwise, you can't have freedom of speech. There's no free speech. If you can get a break, if it can be an offence to say anything that's going to offend anyone, then you can't speak freely, can you? That's not freedom of speech.
That's the way our society's going, isn't it?
Well, exactly. That's why I do what I do, right? So anyway, let me cut a long story short. So he says to me, he's got evidence, and he says to me, by the way, I'm recording this just for you. I just thought I should let you know.
Well, this is all recorded anyway.
Oh yeah, okay. So we're both doing it. Okay.
But we're both recording.
Yeah, we're both recording. So basically, I said to him, I told him I was recording as well, and I asked him. I said to him, "Tell me something. Are you requesting my details, or are you ordering me to give you details?" And he would not answer that question.
Well,
He refused.
Also, Section 5 Public Order, it's disorderly behaviour as well. So maybe that's the line he was going down.
Well, even what? Well, hold on a second. Disorderly.
Complaints.
Just because somebody complains, you need to find out what he's done. And what I done was spoken on a megaphone. And if that is
what were you saying on the megaphone?
I was. It's almost impossible for me to remember exactly what I say because I'm like a stand-up comedian on the streets. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's comedy, right? I kind of make fun of things like, for example, I was standing outside Louis Vuitton, so I might make fun of the fact that people are happy to spend £500 on something that actually only cost about 20 quid. So I'm kind of making fun of what's going on. Okay. So anyway, so to cut long story short, he says he won't answer the question, am I ordering or right? Because he knows where I'm going with that. And instead he starts hinting to the fact that I'm going to get arrested, and I've got a wife and 3 kids, and I know I can't afford to get arrested. So he basically forces me into giving me his details against my details against my will. Then some guy from Westminster Council comes along and says, "Oh yeah, you're breaking some bylaw, right?" Which we can discuss later. By the end of the conversation, there were 2 things that happened that seemed to me to be seriously unlawful, right? Well, there were 3 things. Number 1, forcing me to give me the details under threat of arrest without telling me exactly really, you don't arrest someone, he had no evidence at all except some guy that said I'd suggested that people were robotic, right? You can hardly arrest someone for that. But anyway, he then threatened me at the end and he said to me, if you ever you're an entertainer, he said to me, and you're entertaining without a license, even though I'm not collecting any money, I don't get any money for it, right? And if you do that anywhere in Westminster, I may arrest you. Arrest someone for entertaining? That's like saying, what, if I sing in the street? Is that an arrestable offence?
Well, I'm not sure about the exact bylaws in Westminster, but there might be some. Or obviously a licence for like you got a licence for street trading, licence for street entertainment.
But street entertainment is only if you're getting paid for it. Surely you can't have to have a licence to sing on the street if you're not getting paid for it.
Well, I don't know. The actual wording, it could be on payment or otherwise. I don't know.
What do you mean or otherwise?
I'm not
Then we might as well be living.